they don't like to admit, but you can tell when the board does not trust the leadership team. Okay. And that's one thing that people can feel in the room is when there's a lack of trust between the board members and the leadership, the people that run the company or the organization, depending if you're a for-profit company, depending on what the structure is. But when there's a lack of trust between the leadership team and people that have a say in how the company or organization is ran, people can feel it, right? You can feel it in the room. And every decision, when that happens, takes longer because every vote comes with hesitation. That level of hesitation and in an organization or a company, it can cost a lot, right? And conversations that should be about strategy turn into micromanagement, right? Because one person just like they only trust their vision and they're micromanaging everything that's happening because the person is not saying things that sound right, right? So that's how we go from just collaborating to micromanagement. It's definitely a thing. Hey, Ricky, how are you? So, a fact that should stop you in your tracks is that nearly half of nonprofit executives, they report having a strained or ineffective relationship with their boards, which is unfortunate because a lot of organizations, the board is there to support the organization and help the organization, right? And the fact that half of nonprofit executives do not have a good relationship with the board members, it's sad, okay? So that's almost one out of every two, like 50%. Y'all know what that means. Like, that's too many. That's one too many. And what that really means is that half of organizations are stuck in neutral because the people in charge, they don't fully trust one another. Like, I don't know if everybody has experienced this, ever been in a relationship where, or had a friendship that you didn't fully trust the other person, right? That's how it feels. You're in a situation where every move, it's like you doubt it, right? It's not, you don't know if it's the best move. You don't know how this is gonna go because you don't fully trust the individual that is making the decision, right? So what happens is that those organizations are stuck in neutral, right? They don't trust each other. That's why they're stuck. They're stuck in this level of neutrality or not being able to move forward because of that lack of trust, right? And when trust breaks down, what happens is that the boards, they stop focusing on governance and oversight and they start hovering over day-to-day operations or they start doing nothing at all. It's either or. Either they start doing too much or they do nothing at all, which is unfortunate because I've seen both sides of the spectrum. Okay. So instead of thinking about long-term vision, these board members, they start second guessing staff decisions or leadership as well. They start second guessing the staff decisions. They start reviewing small details, right? Like the most minute details and start delaying approvals that are necessary to move the company forward, the organization forward, right? And the leadership team, when I say leadership team, I'm talking about executive directors, the CEOs, the program leads, development directors, right? They start feeling like they have to defend every move that they make. And that's not a position you want to be in, especially as an executive or a leader in the organization. You should not be having to explain or defend every move or decision you're making, right? Because at this point, it's not governance, it's basically gridlock happening. Okay. Like, I'm not sure if you've ever been stuck on I-95 if you're from Florida and you've been stuck on I-95 and the traffic is insane, right? Like that gridlock, nothing's moving. Because then I'm in California now and the traffic's not the same as Florida traffic. So, like when nothing's moving, it's gridlock, okay? And you do not want to experience that. It does not feel good to have to experience that. So, before we go forward, if it's your first time joining me, welcome. My name is Stacy, and I help growth stage nonprofits and social impact companies that are making between 1 million and $10 million in annual revenue align their operations, systems, and strategies so they can scale without falling through the cracks. Now, when I say that, that I help companies with that, you have to think about your operations as a company and your capacity as a company. Are you doing the best that you can do with the tools that you have? So my job is to look at your organization and see what tools you're utilizing right now, what systems you have in place, and how your operations, how are the people in your team? How's your team functioning? Is everybody being efficient? Is everybody doing the job that they need to do? Is everything working well together? Because then my goal is to always work with my clients to see what the gaps are operationally with like and provide suggestions and tools that my clients need to help them go to the next level. Because sometimes it's not about the funding, it's about how you operate. Because then if you think about operations and your donation, your donor retention or donor engagement systems are not up to par, what happens is that you're not retaining donors and you're not generating new donors. So it causes a gap with that. But with operations like where you're communicating with the donors effectively, and when somebody makes a donation, like there's a workflow or process in place to ensure that that person receives the touch points and care that they need, they stay. Okay, because donor retention is important. And I know I posted something recently that it was something like 45% of nonprofits actually retain their donors, right? So that's why I gave that example. So with that in mind, if you're new, definitely stick around and go ahead and give me a follow or add me as a friend if you're on Facebook, because then every time I can, I come on here and teach and educate on different topics when it comes to the nonprofit world or social impact enterprise. Because not just nonprofit, but for profit as well, but social impact companies, right? For smaller nonprofits, if you're not making $1 million yet, fear not, because then I do have services and a network that was created for smaller nonprofits. It's a self-paced course with support from me. It's called the Nonprofit Navigator course. So it's a course with digital products and it guides you on how to take action to build your operations and also different parts because then there's a fundraising DIY fundraising calendar in there. I teach you how to do that in the course. So if you're a smaller nonprofit and you need this course to get going or get started and start fixing, lining all your ducks in a row, go ahead and let me know that you want the course and I'll send you that link, or just send me a DM and tell me you want the link to the Nonprofit Navigator course. And it's a course that I continue to build. So if there's a lesson that I feel is relevant to you today, I will create a lesson and put it in there, and you also get access to templates. Um, so definitely, if you're a smaller nonprofit, it would be in your best interest to sign up for the Nonprofit Navigator course. So before I continue, let me know you're here, #live. Let me know where you're catching this from. Hi, everyone. If you're catching me live, #live. If you're catching the replay, #replay, because this social media game, they like engagement and they push the videos further if you engage. So definitely engage and comment and ask questions because that's what I'm here for. Okay. But we're going to go back to the issue of board trust, right? When the board doesn't trust the leadership, the real what what really happens, the real world result that I want you to keep in mind is that there's a level of paralysis within your company or organization because nobody's moving, right? You can't move. Like if you move, you're just doing everything by yourself or everything's like not the way it's supposed to be. So decisions are not supposed to take longer, and that's what happens. Opportunities are missed because not everybody is working together in the situation, and funders start to sense the hesitation. If you are working closely with funders and this is how you act, like your organization has that lack of trust within it, external stakeholders will start to see it. And you do not want these problems. You don't want people to start seeing that your organization is dysfunctional because nobody wants to work or give money to the dysfunctional company or organization. Okay. So, and not only that, not only external stakeholders, but internal stakeholders like your staff will start feeling it. And you don't want your staff to feel like there's tension between the leadership and the board because they're going to start guessing themselves and morale is going to go down. And that's another thing. People think operations is just about the systems, but you have people within the operations too, like the staff and how people operate also matters. So if morale is down because leadership and the board just can't get their act together, how do you think that affects your staff, right? So it's not just about like the bad vibes and juju in the boardroom. All of this will have real consequences for your funding, your growth, and sustainability. So it's your best interest to make sure that there's a level of cohesiveness within the board members and the leadership team. Because then, if you don't have a good board, then you need to start working on it. If you don't know where to find or how to get better board members, you need to start networking and start building relationships a little bit better and stop looking for your friends to fill positions because they ain't gonna do the job you want them to do because they know you. Like, because then I'm not gonna go to my sister and tell her I'm gonna create a nonprofit. Can you join the board? Because we have two different personalities, right? And I know because she's a hard worker, but the work she likes doing is specific. Hey there, hashtag live and let me know who's here because I didn't see, I didn't catch the picture. So definitely, like, you have to pick your board members based on the skills, knowledge, and abilities they have. And also, you have to think about their level of capacity. And don't be afraid to ask people when they say they want to join your board, how much time per week or per month can you contribute to this? Because this is not a come to meetings and do nothing board. Like, if that, like, you have to be clear about what you need them for and get them to acknowledge that they have the bandwidth or capacity to do the work that is required for them. Because you need that level of trust front and center. Okay. So definitely start thinking about these things. If you don't have a good board, you need to start thinking about how to secure a good one because that's where operations can come in because it's a daily work of running your organization. But if like the back end, like your board and things like that, you can't even get that together, then there's going to be issues. But operations, for those who know and understand what the definition of operations is the daily work of running the organization or company. So like the financial oversight, the program reporting, the staff management, and compliance. But with all that comes the that helps build trust in the company and organization. If it's being operated properly, there's a level of trust that you can build for that organization or company. But to have good operations, that's why I focus on operations and systems. You need systems. Systems are the tools that help you improve your operations. Okay. A system could be a donor management software, right? It could be a project tracker that you have in Asana or Monday.com. So those could be systems, right? Or a dashboard in Airtable that shows the outcomes in real time. So all of these are examples of systems within the big picture, which is operations. Tools are going to make information visible, consistent, and verifiable for your company or organization, right? So it does help with the big picture of improving the organization's operation or company's operation. And that's exactly what board needs to trust the leadership team with. It's that level of clarity. But if the leadership team can't even get the operations correctly where the board falls in line, then there's an issue and the board, there needs to be some systems or operation improvement made so the board can also be running effectively. So, one way that I support my clients with dealing with boards, because then in October, I'm doing a board training in another state where it's a training for the board members to determine what they need to improve capacity in the aspect of that particular client. So there's always trainings, capacity building trainings that are necessary for boards to help them improve the work that they're doing. So that's how I come in and help board members and organizations with their board members, because capacity building trainings are important, because then capacity building will be um, how effective an organization or company is at doing the work that it's doing. If your board members are not good at staying accountable or doing the work that they need to do, maybe they need a training on how to do it efficiently. So these things are things to look at. But if any of that, you have questions about any of that, or doing a tailored training for your board or for your team, definitely reach out to me in the DM so we can talk about what's needed and what that looks like and go from there. And the other thing is that when leadership can walk into a board meeting, I want you to keep in mind and say, here are our program outcomes, and here's the fundraising pipeline, and here are the financial projections. And those numbers are actually pulled from a system instead of someone's memory. Trust will build because now your board will see that you know what you're talking about. And that's why I am big on operations and systems, because an organization needs to have their ducks in a row. You need to have your infrastructure in place. So getting that information and the tools that you need is not like playing games, because we ain't playing games with you don't play games with your business, right? An organization is a business. A company is, we know it's a business. You're running an organization or a company. It's making over $1 million. If it's not making over $1 million yet, then you need to work on it. But you don't play with operations, because that's going to help your organization grow and become better. It's going to help like, if it grows, then imagine the level of impact you can have. Like, people have secure jobs, people have better benefits. Like, if you don't want to think about it in terms of the organization is doing better, think of it in terms of how many lives you're impacting. Because when I think of the work that I do, I also like thinking of how the work I do impacts others, because that helps me, or not, it helps me. It just, I get more joy doing that work, because I used to love volunteering when I was younger. And I guess that's the way I look at it. How does the work I do impact others? How does it support others in the work that they do and in their lives? And if you think about it, ooh, let me shut off my timer. If you think about it, when you are growing a company or organization, people have more secure jobs, stable jobs. When you improve operations and systems, then it's easier for you to make sure that you have a team that is in alignment with the company values. So all of these things work together to make sure that the company has great staff, better culture. All of these things, like operations and systems, go a long way in making sure an organization has that level of stability and alignment across the board. So yeah, give your board information that's like pulled from systems and not just your head, and you'll see how good it, like, how it will help build the trust, where they know that as a leader of the company or organization, you know what you're doing, you have your ducks in a row. Now, dashboards in particular are powerful. I know I talked about pulling it from dashboards. They're powerful because they take the guesswork out. So if you have any experience in project management, a lot of project managers use tools, Kanban or Gantt charts and things like that. There are some softwares and dashboard that enable you to record data for projects and track things like deadlines, timelines, and things like that. I know Monday.com, Airtable, they have the ability to enter data and also create columns that are specific to what you're looking for, and also see them in different views, like either Gantt tables or Kanban, different things like that. So And also you can export it in CSV files or see it in there's a view for a reporting view. I know on Monday.com I played around with that. So if you have a system that enables you to turn your data into a report where you don't have to keep guessing about where the information is, then it's a good look and it's a good system for you. If you're a smaller organization, then I would say to go towards systems like Asana, Airtable, Monday.com. Nonprofits, if you have less than 10 team members, it's free for a professional plan on Monday.com. Over that, if I remember correctly, it's 67.8 per year per person. I think I got that right. But definitely it is it's not a bad thing to have good systems, okay? Good systems help. So look into that and make sure that you have a dashboard for your organization to start recording data. And another thing that I want to say, I have a dashboard setup guide on my stand store. It's $47 and I walk you through setting up dashboards on Monday.com, Asana, or Airtable. So these three are the ones that are covered in the setup guide with step-by-step instructions. If you want the guide, definitely comment the word dashboard and I'll send you the link. If you are on either TikTok, Facebook, wherever it is, just comment the word dashboard and I'll send you the link for that. Or DM me the word dashboard if you're on TikTok. So that's the one thing about that. Okay. So we talked about systems and operations and what that looks like using dashboards, but I know I brought up training for boards and how it's capacity building training. So I'm gonna go and talk a little bit more about how capacity building can cause trust issues or how it's important with having trust issues within your team because capacity trust issues with it's not always just about the numbers because there can be some trust issues with board members and leadership because of numbers, but sometimes it's about whether leadership has the actual capacity to deliver on the things that they say they want to deliver, right? Capacity is your organization's ability to deliver on its mission with the people, resources, and systems that you have. Okay, so if your staff is stretched beyond capacity, and if your board hasn't been trained in its governance role, or if leadership developed the skills to manage growth, if they haven't developed the skills to manage growth, trust starts going down. It starts to erode. So that's how trust issues happen with a lack of capacity or within an organization. And that's why capacity building is very important in increasing trust for an organization and also increasing their growth potential and sustainability. For example, training your board on how to use dashboards to track progress is an example of capacity building. Another example would be equipping your team with the project management training so that they can deliver more consistently. That's another example of capacity building. So if your organization needs board training, team trainings, or leadership development, those are example of capacity building services that I offer as well. So definitely reach out if you have questions on that because they're not on my stand store, my front-facing stand store. They are tailored to the organization. So if you need any support on that level, definitely reach out and we'll talk about the needs of your organization and what I can do to support you. And a trend I want you to pay attention to is how corporate and philanthropic funders are starting to evaluate governance and board effectiveness as part of their due diligence, okay, before making large grants. I was on a grant review panel recently, and they do look at the governance, they do look at the makeup of the board. So definitely start taking the performance of your board a little bit more seriously because it does make a difference and it's making a difference. Okay. So, when your board leadership team, they're not aligned and operating with trust, time is not the only thing you lose. You could be losing funding as well. I want you to think about that. And In this economy where every dollar matters, okay, and every dollar is scrutinized, trust, they will pick the ones like the organizations or companies that stand out and are ready. So I always say that operations and systems, that's infrastructure. So you have to build with the infrastructure. So you have to make sure you are secure on that level. Your operations, your game is good with operations and systems. So smaller nonprofits, that's why I highly suggest you sign up for the Nonprofit Navigator course because that in itself will have different modules to help you set up standard operating procedures and the infrastructure that you need for your organization. So let me know if you're interested in joining the Nonprofit Navigator. Just send me a DM and ask me for the course link, and I'll send that over to you. So what time is it? 2:04. I gotta leave soon. So, let's look at a case study before I go. Back in 2015, the American Red Cross, right? They faced a storm of criticism about how it handled funds after a major disaster response, which is a lot of organizations every time there's a major disaster. So I just want you to keep in mind. And one of the biggest issues that came to light wasn't just about money in this case, right? It was about governance and trust. So, how the money was being handled. The board and leadership in this case, they weren't aligned. The systems for accountability were not clear, which is a big issue, right? And there was a lack of transparency that eroded trust both internally and externally. So they had to rebuild by putting systems and operations in place that made performance and accountability visible and not hidden. Because there's a level of accountability and visibility or transparency that's very important for nonprofit companies and social enterprise companies alike because people want to see the impact that you're making. And if you're all hush hush about it, then people are going to start thinking you're fraudulent and you're not doing what you said you would do, right? Um, Now, if we applied my precisions-led operations method to this case, the path forward would have been a little bit clearer. Because then, step one, we would be able to define the outcome. So, what exactly the board should be seeing every quarter and what success looks like for the leadership. So, in the precision-led operations method, that's usually our step one. What are the outcomes we're looking for? Now, step two, it would be to assign ownership. So there's no confusion about who's responsible for what deliverable. Because when there's a project or when there is work happening, there needs to be an owner for the work that's happening. Because if nobody's owning the work, then everybody's going to say, oh, I thought James was doing that. I thought John was doing that. I thought Katie was going to do that. You don't want that to happen. So there needs to be ownership associated with the word, hey, Jerry, how's it going? With the work that's happening. And step three would be creating visibility using dashboards and reporting systems so that the board can see progress in real time instead of waiting for explanations as to what's going on. If you've never had a dashboard before for your organization or the work that you're doing, I highly suggest you get the $47 dashboard setup guide that I was referring to. DM me the word dashboard and I'll send you the link because the step-by-step guide on how to set up a dashboard. Because when you do that, the visibility aspect I'm talking about, you have a project tracker or project management dashboard on Monday.com, Airtable, or Asana is where you list your goals and you have tasks for these goals and subtasks, and you can assign it to team members. So if the board had visibility, like the access to that, they could see, okay, this person said they were done with this task. So they can see the progress as it's happening. So that's what I mean in real time. And that's how you move from suspicion to confidence with your board is by making sure you do that level of visibility. And this isn't just Red Cross, okay? And that's a pattern that shows up in organizations of every size. So I don't want you to think it's specific to Red Cross, right? Because it's not. Boards, when they don't trust leadership, leadership feels micromanaged, okay? Especially if the board is very involved. And when leadership feels micromanaged, believe me, there's going to be a level of frustration, and the staff is going to start feeling disempowered, and the growth is going to stall in the organization and company. So I really want you to think about that um, as you think about growth in your company and your organization and how to make sure that it's growing. Okay. And it's usually a cycle that repeats again and again until operations and systems are strong enough to build trust back. Because there's a level of trust that you gain when things look like you know what you're doing, okay? So you need to have operations and systems for that to occur. And it's not only for executive directors, CEOs, COOs, program directors, development directors, finance directors, HR directors, board presidents. Your job is not to get stuck in the weeds of daily execution. Your job is to lead with a level of clarity, okay? Make strategic decisions and drive impact, okay? So, with program directors, an example I give for that, you shouldn't be only be focused on aligning programs with mission outcomes. Well, you shouldn't only be focused with chasing spreadsheet. You should also try to align everything like the data that you're gathering with the programs, right? And the mission outcomes, because all of these things need to be in alignment. With development directors, right? It's not only tracking follow-ups, you need to cultivate donors, keep record of that. Where is that process and how are you cultivating it? Have notes on that and securing major gifts as well. Okay, so the manually tracking follow-ups is not the only thing I want you to focus on when you're thinking about operations and improving systems for your position. Now, with that in mind, um, yeah, I want you to start focusing on operations and system because if the trust is dwindling, you have to think about what the gaps are, what the issues are, and how operations and systems can help you fix those issues within your company or organization to ensure that, you can build that back because when you build the trust back between the board and the leadership, then the staff is going to be doing better as well. So yeah, that's my 2 cents on that. And I gotta pick up the 2/3-year-old shortly. If you want us to talk about capacity building services for your company, for your organization, so I can help with the training for your team, your board, your leadership team. Definitely let me know. DM me capacity building services, and we'll talk about what that looks like so we can assess what your company or organization needs, and we'll go from there. If you want the dashboard setup guide, so you can set up your dashboard for grant management, project management, and Document Hub, let me know. I'll send you the link for that, or just DM me the word dashboard. I'll know. I'll send you the link. But with that said, I'm gonna go. Let me make sure I go pick up this little one, and then we'll talk soon. I'll see you soon. Bye, everybody. Let me turn off TikTok, and then Facebook. I gotta go. Bye, y'all.